All right, Dog fans, here we go. It is time for the inaugural edition of Talking Huskies, a truly historic moment in television history. And we cannot be more fired up to be here with you talking Husky football all season long. My name is Dave Softhy-Mahler, joined now by my pal, former Husky tight end, former NFL veteran, Cam Cleland with us. Cameron, here we go, baby. Time to talk some dogs. How are you, man?
Yeah, can you believe they're going to let us on television to look at this stuff, Dave? I don't even know what to tell you there, but we get a chance to talk about dogs all year long. This show with you and I on television. I don't know, man. It's going to be good. I think so. I think so.
Now, listen, apparently nobody else was available, so they came to us. We want to thank, first of all, our friends at the law offices of Catherine Clark for doing this, being a part of our show all year long, talking Huskies every single week. And why don't we, first of all, just talk about where this team is expected to be in 2023. A team that goes 11-2, Cam, last season, first year under head coach Kalen DeBoer. They set every record in the book you were looking for offensively from an offensive perspective. Complete 180 from the John Donovan-led offense, the Jimmy Lake-led football team the year before. They end the year on a massive winning streak. Go to Oregon, get a big win in Eugene. Smash the Cougars in the Apple Cup. Beat up on Texas and Steve Sarkisian in the Alamo Bowl in San Antonio. So what's next for this team? Number 10 in the coaches poll, number 11 in the AP poll. What should the expectations can be for 2023?
You know how I feel always about expectations and how we look at it, man. It's just like the coach mindset is one game at a time. The player's mindset is one game at a time. All those things and how you say it and think about it. This team each week, not only is it hugely valued to make sure that you step up your game because everybody's going to be shooting at you. Last year, there wasn't the expectation of what's Coach DeBoer going to look like. What's this offense going to look like under Michael Penick? All those things that you think about now, everybody knows. There's no more hiding. There's no more hiding the scheme because the packages are going to be in play. All the things that you think about now are what are we going to do to showcase our talent above and beyond. Defenses are going to game plan for you, man. You know that, Dave. And not only talk about just this conference, how much better this conference is throughout from top to bottom.
No question, which is ironic because it's the last go-around for the Pac-12, right?
Yeah,
you've got one more voyage with the conference before things fall apart, and everybody kind of goes their separate ways. Got a bunch of teams, obviously, as you know, Cam, heading off to the Big 12. Colorado began that exodus. USC and UCLA beginning the exodus of Oregon, UW, and the LA schools to the Big 10, leaving just the Bay Area schools, Oregon State and Wazoo, in what's left of the Pac-12 starting next season. I guess you want to call it the Pac-4 for now, but put yourself, Cam, in the shoes of these players. The idea of winning the final Pac-12 conference championship ever, winning the last Apple Cup ever between two Pac-12 schools. How much of a driving factor would that be for you?
Man, we could talk about this move all day long and what it's going to be. I think it's going to be a major focus all year, Dave. I think that's what it's going to have to talk about because week in and week out, it could be the last time we see this annual meeting of this group and how these games are going to play out. But I've never seen such depth of talent, not only at quarterback position throughout the conference. So Michael Penix is up against a Heisman Trophy winner at USC. He's got everybody at Oregon talking about this guy named Bo Nix, who's supposedly going to be that guy. DJ Ungulate, I'm going to have to say it right because I ended up slaughtering it. But Cam Rising, there's just, throughout the entire conference, each week there's going to be massive storylines. But this Husky team is going to be the one that's targeted probably the most. I just feel that way because I think that they're going to be one of the major favorites because I look at it from a realistic mindset is that this team has the most, and when I say the most offensive talent in this conference by far.
No question. And look, don't tell the guys I said this, but I was talking to the boys over at Talkin Ducks, and Joey Harrington specifically told me that he thinks the Huskies are going to win the Pac-12 and run it going away. All right, so there's even some nervous energy coming down there from Eugene and Autzen Stadium. But just going back to what you said about kind of, hey, look, man, there's a bullseye on your back, right? Everywhere you go, Michigan State is going to be good and salty in week 3 when Washington goes out there after what happened a year ago. Oregon coming up here after what happened down there at Autzen Stadium. They're going to be good and salty. I feel, Cam, that Washington has gone from the hunters to the hunted in 2023.
No, I don't mind that, and that's the way probably it should be. If you're going to be targeted, we use the word, you started it from the top of the show. The expectations is everybody's going to have a target, and they're going to try to give you your best shot, even from the opener against Boise State to Tulsa, and then you have to go on the road. So all these games, there's no breaks this year, and some of the mistakes, and we want to go back into last year. One interception versus Arizona State's a different year, but that year set a mindset and a tone to this team that everybody in the country has to go, what are they doing on offense up there? What's their secret? Coaches, other programs, Alabama going after Coach Grubb. All those things are part of what happens when you win and you showcase talent like that, especially when Michael Penick is throwing the football back there, man. From the entire season, from the start and the entire offseason, these Huskies, these guys, I think they're ready for it because now they're in the limelight and they can't hide.
Yeah, you mentioned it, getting Ryan Grubb back, who I thought stroke of genius by Ryan Grubb and Coach DeBoer. Cam, not sure where you stand on this, but the word I got is that Ryan Grubb was never going to Alabama, but wanted to go down there to make it look like he was going to Alabama so he could come back and tell the entire world that he turned down Nick Saban and the offensive coordinator job at Alabama, parlays that into a big raise for the second time on the job at Washington. And then not just that, but Michael Penix coming back. And because Michael Penix came back, Ryan Grubb comes back, Rome Odunze comes back, Jalen McMillan comes back. It just began this entire domino effect, I thought, when Mike Penix, on the night of the recruiting banquet, announced to the entire team, including telling Coach DeBoer for the very first time, by the way, that he was returning.
Yeah, I remember seeing that clip of him, and everyone's looking around going, what is this clip? Is this his NFL swan song? Where's he going? What's he going to do? I think it's not only surprised you and me, it surprised us all, because there's something unique about what Coach DeBoer has with Michael Penix, along with Coach Grubb, and that entire setup. So everything about this group I love, and trust me when we say this, it's hard to find good coaches and good people that keep their kids and make them want to stay and play. And for some reason, and we're on the inside a little bit, we'll learn more about it throughout the year. That's what Coach DeBoer has done.
Well, we will come back and talk more about Mike Penix, more about questions on this football team. A lot of players returning, but a few holes to fill off the 2022 team. This is the inaugural version of Talkin Huskies. More next, courtesy of our friends at Nordstrom Heating and Air, right here on Root Sports Northwest. All right, Dog fans, welcome back to the inaugural version of Talkin Huskies. My name is Dave Softy-Mahler, joined by former Husky tight end, NFL veteran Cam Cleland. Time for a little hot or cold, brought to you by our friends at Nordstrom Heating and Air. And Cam, let's start with number 9, Michael Penix. Did almost everything right a year ago, if not everything right a year ago. Let's talk about that. What were some of those things that you saw from number 9 that you want to see him continue again into 2023?
Well, let's first start off on his ability to get rid of the football. And I'm going to give credit to the offensive line. The amount of sacks on the season was, I want to say it's legendary with how often he was not touched. So that was probably part of the scheme, I want to think, going into the season, understanding that coming off the knee injuries, he hadn't finished a full season yet in his career. So let's get rid of the football. Absolutely number 1. But his concept and his ability to get rid of the football under pressure and knowledge of where to be. I think the spacing of this offense, and I know that Coach DeBoer and Coach Grubb always use the terminology of the family of the offense and how it's built. It just felt like Michael had every single viewpoint open. Even to not only just extend plays because how well the offensive line did, but that was his knowledge and his ball accuracy. Coming from somebody that's played with a lefty in college, some of you might remember a guy named Brock Hewitt, a guy spinning it lefty, seeing it and knowing that how the touch of these lefty guys, I'm a big fan of baseball lefties, but Penix can spin it as good as anybody in the country. You watch it how it comes off his hand. But I think it was the intelligence that he had and how he grasped the offense because of the history and being comfortable in the offense.
Well, then just as you said, the relationship, Cam, between Mike Penix and Ryan Grubb, might end up being legendary, right? As far as the coach-quarterback relationship, multiple players running wide open on seemingly every drop back from last year. And then for me, it kind of felt like the mistakes were kind of self-inflicted, that Washington was dictating really the tempo. They were dictating the outcome. It wasn't just the opponent that was kind of getting on them. I'll give you two examples. The ball that bounced off Jackson Kirkland's head that was picked up for a pick six in the ASU game, and the pitch to Wayne Talapapa that he fumbled near the end zone led to a touchdown for UCLA. Moments like that, if they can just find a way to clean those up, you might be looking at a 12-0 football team running through the Pac-12. And then kind of from a cold perspective, look, obviously you mentioned the offensive line protection last year, right? 7 sacks allowed total by UW, and some of those weren't even with number 9 in the ball game. But you did lose 3 starters from last year's offensive line. Corey Luciano, your center, Henry Bainavalu, Jackson Kirkland have all moved on to the National Football League. 3 new players in Nate Kalepo, Mateo Mele, and Julius Bilo. They've played before. A couple of guys have started like Kalepo before. Kalepo was your guy, as you know, Cam, when Jackson was out a year ago to start the season. But they've never played as a 5-some before, with Rosengarten at right tackle and Fautano at left tackle. Tell me about the way that offensive line gels from the start to protect Mike Penick again.
Well, the good thing, and you mentioned all those guys, because up the middle with Bilo, Mele, and Kalepo, those guys got a lot of reps throughout the year. There was rotation in the third quarter, and that's how you set up that offense. And knowing that Coach Huff, that's Scott Huff, the offensive line coach, he's such a great coach, man. And he's going to get these guys ready. But those 2 bookends with Troy and Roger on the outside, and that's all it makes Roger so important, because I always say, because remember, Michael Penix is left-handed, so that's his backside. So it's important because Roger is that guy that's going to have everybody coming from that blind side. But this group running the football, and we'll get into that more as we talk more about the offense and see how it ends up progressing. But being better on run, being better on the inside runs, being better on the wide zones, and Cam Davis, who, my gosh, the amount of touchdowns that Cam Davis had last year in the red zone and leading that conference. And there's so many things that this offensive line needs to do, but establishing that relationship, they might throw the ball. Guys, I mean, Dave, they might end up throwing this football 35 times a game. It might be 40. So, I mean, that's a lot of pass protection. So that scheme has to be perfect. But the fear of it is that offense is spread out. The receivers are so open that, do you want to blitz this team? Do you want to take the risk in knowing that, hey, if we bring 6, that means that there's an extra free runner, but that you're going to give Rome, you're going to give both J-Mac and Jalen an option one-on-one? Those are risks you're going to see maybe from defenses time to time, but the offensive line's got to gel quick, and they're going to know really quick versus Boise State.
Yeah, and keep in mind that there are some new rules now in college football. The clock is no longer stopping on a first down, which is going to be weird because all of us are accustomed to seeing that NFL at this level of football. Ryan Grubb made the point, Cam, a couple weeks ago. They may not have as many possessions. There may not be as many plays. So the actual scoring average could drop from where it was a year ago because the opportunities may not be there. But the efficiency, like you said, is what you're looking for. And I'll give you one from the cold perspective. How about red zone touchdown percentage? The Pac-12, for whatever reason, just does scoring percentage inside the red zone. UW last year, touchdown percentage was at 66, which sounds great, but Oregon was at 70 and USC was at 77% touchdown percentage inside the red zone. So for me, Cam, I know you agree, there's a little more meat left on that bone. We'll continue more with Talkin Huskies right here on Root Sports Northwest next. All right, Dog fans, welcome back to the inaugural version of Talkin Huskies. Cam, we've spent a lot of time on the show so far talking about the offense. What about the other side of the ball? How about some love for the defense, baby? Took a big jump in the second half of the year. That second half of the Apple Cup, I thought, against Cam Ward and the Cougar offense was exquisite. 3rd in sacks a year ago, but they lose 8.5 of those with Jeremiah Martin taking off to the NFL. Braylon Trice returns. ZTF is back. Savell Smalls transfers to Colorado. Give us an overview of what you see on defense from these guys heading into Boise State next weekend.
This is a shot in the dark. I think this defense is better. When I say it's better, you do lose Jeremiah Martin, but now Zion's going to get a lot more reps on the outside. They all changed numbers, so we got to learn all these new numbers. We got Eddie Uliviosio wearing number 5, so I got to get used to him not switching from 48 to 5. So all these number changes I'm going to be worried about. But I think that having that linebacker, when I mean Eddie, in there, you get Goforth, who transfers from USC, who's another big body, a veteran in there. But the biggest jump, Dave, is going to be in the secondary. And it has to be. This conference is going to throw the football all over the yard. We can't say it enough at nauseum with how many quarterbacks are in this dang conference. So what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to upgrade at corner. So it's Jabbar Muhammad, who comes in as a superstar. He's coming from Oklahoma State, so that's a guy that's going to impact right away. Guys that are making adjustments. But how do you replace Alex Smith, who arguably was one of the biggest plays versus Oregon, a great leader? So what are you going to do and replace and adjust? Dom Hampton goes back there. You still have Asa. I really, really like Tristan Dunn. I know you lost Alex Cook, but just moving it around and the linebackers, I think we're faster at linebacker. Carson Bruner's going to get more reps. The rotation. There's so many guys to talk about, especially, and then we don't want to forget about all the big boys up front and in the middle. It's just, this defense is going to be better. Mark my words on it.
Yeah, I had Mish Powell out of O'Day, shout out Fighting Irish, on the radio show a couple weeks ago. And I asked him, Cam, to give us the name of a guy in that secondary that nobody's talking about, but come November they will be talking about. He said Thaddeus Dixon is the guy to keep an eye on. And you mentioned Jabbar Muhammad, preseason All Pac-12 second team, based on his reputation, because the guy has not taken a snap yet in the conference. So we'll see what Jabbar Muhammad brings to the table. And when I think of Dominic Hampton, I think of a guy that got kicked out of the Michigan game a couple years ago, a guy that was basically benched by Jimmy Lake 2 seasons ago. He's now an upperclassman. It feels like it's time, Cam, for Dominic Hampton and Asa Turner late in their career to step up and be the players that we all think they can be.
Well, they both look like linebackers. I mean, that's how big they are. Tom Hampton is a monster back there. He can still cover a lot of ground. Remember, he played that Husky position, which is the outside linebacker in a sense, the nickel a lot of the times, but he was versatile. Now he's going to be in more space. He reminds me, and this is a Seahawk reference, he has that kind of power, like Bam Bam Cam always had. Now shout out to more Cams right there, that's Cam Chancellor. But those types of things, that's the playmaking he has. Asa is a veteran. He had that start last year. We had a couple picks at the beginning of the year. We're like, he's going to have a big season. Maybe it is time to open it up. And Asa will. And he just has that kind of veteran experience back there. I'm always about experience. But young players are anxious. They want to get reps. And all those coaches, Coach Inge, those guys are going to make sure the guys that are hungry are out there playing.
And we'll see about that depth at defensive end. You love ZTF. You love Braylon. As you said, they moved Voit Tanufi from the inside to the outside. He had 5 sacks a year ago. So they got the big guys up front on top of the depth chart, but do they have the depth at that position? Because they need that big time as the year goes by. All right, we're going to break. When we come back, we'll talk about the schedule, make some predictions. That's coming up next on Talkin Huskies right here on Root Sports Northwest. All right, welcome back. Talkin Huskies continues, our inaugural edition for the 2023 season. Don't forget, here every week, talking Husky football before the Dogs take on Boise State next weekend. My name is Dave Softhy-Mahler. Cam Cleveland with us as well. And Cam, the schedule looks a little different than it did a year ago, mostly because of the 2 U's. Utah and USC, who were not on your schedule a year ago, are on the schedule in 2023. That November, man, that run with USC, Utah, Oregon State, Wazoo. Washington has a bit of a challenge on their hands this year with the schedule, right?
Well, it always looks daunting at the beginning of the season. That's why I always think, it's like, oh my gosh, November is going to be ruthless. What happens if a bunch of injuries happen to any team? What happens if this team loses? The what ifs in college football are always my favorite. But yes, if we're looking at it optically just by date and just go up and down, November is a gauntlet. I mean, it is. It's going to decide who wins the Pac-12 in November. And that's a great job scheduling. I don't know if it just worked out that way, but it's well done by this conference in its last year to make some excitement at the end. But yeah, man, I don't want to get by the first couple of games of the season and look at it in Boise State, and that's no slouch, Tulsa, and then let's go on the road to our future brothers in the Big Ten and go out to Michigan State and East Lansing.
Well, and look, there's always a trap game or two. There's always a game where you catch the kids kind of looking ahead. The Stanford game, for example, came at the end of October with USC looming the week after. Michigan State on the road, as you said, in week 3, a team that got demolished by the Huskies at Husky Stadium last year. So not falling for the trap game this year is going to be a big key for UW. Is there one game that stands out to you?
You mentioned Stanford. I don't think it really could be. It's on the road. You look at it every time you go down to Palo Alto, it's not a hostile crowd. So it's something that can be a little apathetic sometimes to get the energy up. We also know how difficult it is to go down to the desert and win for us down in the desert. And that's not really a trap game. That's like, we got to get the monkey off the back and say, we can win in the desert. It can be hard. If anyone, yeah, it could be the Stanford game. It really could be, because it just depends on how their season is going, and we'll figure out what they look like, because, my goodness, that's a whole new regime down there too.
Let's get predictions for the season before we get out of here. I got them going 11-1, losing the USC game, but also seeing USC again in Vegas in the Pac-12 championship. They're going to lose to USC just like they did in 2016 and still give themselves a shot to make the Final Four. How about you?
Oh, man, this prediction stuff, gosh dang it. You know, you're going to put this to my head and make me have to make decisions early like that. It's going to drive me insane, man. I think there is one loss. Sometimes there could be 2 losses in this conference to win it. But I'm with you. I'm with you, the USC. I think the loss does come in November. I'm not sure which one it's going to be, but I might be able to swallow that one.
I love it. All right, man. Great stuff. Every week we're sitting here talking Huskies with Cam Cleland. My name is Dave Softy-Mahler. Thank you for joining us for week 1. We made it through week 2 before the Dogs take on Boise State is next week. Be with us then right here on Talkin Huskies.